SES crews carrying out multiple rescues throughout the night as residents across New South Wales become stranded. Nearly half of Australia, in every mainland state and territory except WA, is now under severe weather warnings. Authorities telling thousands more be ready to evacuate with a moment's notice.
So let's bring you up to speed now with what is happening as we go to air, and evacuation warnings are in place for low-lying areas of New South Wales. And they
Clarendon.
London,
yeah, that's Windsor.
Clarendon, Wetherill Park and the Colo River. Some big warnings around that Colo River area.
That's all South Creek.
Holding major concerns over the Hawkesbury rivers, with water levels scheduled to peak in just a few hours' time. This is Warragamba Dam that continues to spill over, so more water.
Just going to pause that there for a sec. What they don't tell you, why all that there bottlenecks. See just there on that top there? Right, that's the Colo River coming in up there. Right? And what happens is, where that Colo River comes in, trying to get that steady, is a bottleneck. It's a valley. It's two mountain ranges like that. And the water can't get through. And of course then it backlogs and floods all the way back. And that's why. But you know what these silly bastards have been doing for the last 30 years? They have been building it up and building it up and building houses where the floodwater used to go. And they raised it up by metres and metres and metres of soil and compressed it down. So now the floodwater's got nowhere to go. So now it's flooding even higher out further. Now for Clarendon to go underwater, Clarendon hasn't gone underwater since I was a kid way back in 1971. So that just goes to show how much houses are built. If you wonder what I'm talking about, go and look at Marsden Park. Now let's just rewind what he said. Now he shows it.
With a moment's notice.
So let's bring you up to speed now with what is happening as we
let's have a look.
And evacuation warnings are in place for low-lying areas.
Right, there it is there. See Clarendon, Wetherill Park, all that runs off South Creek. Yeah, one creek, South Creek, and Wetherill Park, Londonderry, is South Creek. Clarendon is a separate creek which comes underneath the railway line between Clarendon and Windsor and empties directly into the Hawkesbury behind the Richmond Air Force Base. But Wetherill Park and Londonderry, so far apart, is still South Creek. And also Londonderry also comes into that other creek. Londonderry's not one town. Londonderry is a very big area. It's about 20 kilometres by about 20 kilometres either direction, north, east, south and west. Right? So half of it will be going down the creek around the back of Clarendon and Windsor, and the other half it goes down the South Creek, which feeds down there from Wetherill Park, all the way down from Liverpool, all the way down from Camden, all the way out to Robinson, all the way right up down there to Goulburn and everywhere else. They don't tell you that in the news article. They don't tell you it's coming all the way down. Where's my finger going? Right. All the way down here, all this down in here is flowing just there into Windsor. And that's where it all flows into. That's what they're not telling you, because they don't know. They're news reporters.
Of New South Wales, and they include Londonderry, Clarendon, Wetherill Park and the Colo River. Some big warnings around that Colo River area this morning. Authorities holding major concerns over the Hawkesbury rivers, with water levels scheduled to peak.
See all that south of the word Warragamba down below that? That all runs down out to Hawkesbury River.
Flooded system, and as the rain keeps coming, more houses are damaged, as you can see, and flooded. The bill already estimated to have reached $2 billion. More than 18.
That's the old house at Windsor. That always goes underwater.
194 schools across New South Wales will remain closed, And today, the ADF will bolster support efforts on the ground and by air. Meantime, in Queensland this morning, parts of the state's southeast are being swept away.
Southeast Queensland always gets flooded. Southeast Queensland always has the highest drought. Southeast Queensland always has the big floods. Always floods up there, let me tell you. Currumbin, Bow Desert.
Landslides, forcing residents to evacuate their homes in search of safer ground. It's a big morning. There's a warning. This crisis is far from over.
From the Sunshine Coast to Sydney, we have reporters stationed in all of the key locations this morning, bringing you the very latest. Gabrielle Boyle begins our coverage from Richmond in Western Sydney, where there's an evacuation warning in place. Gabby, some extraordinary scenes overnight as people fled to safety. Yeah, that's right, Ali. Among all this horror comes moments of hope, and they are...
You know, when this mob here say people fled to safety, don't you really think the locals know if their house is going to go under flood? Don't you think the locals know that their grandparents and their parents have told them, oh yes, this house here always goes under flood? Don't you think they know how high the floods have been coming there for the last 200 years since we settled there in the Windsor? Windsor is the surname of Queen Elizabeth of Windsor Castle. That's why it's called Windsor, because that's where they settled when they first came out in the Australian with the fleet, and they paddled their little boats around from the Sydney Opera House, and they went out through the headlands, turned left and come up the Hawkesbury River, up there through Brooklyn. Then they come up there and they found this vast, great big flat area full of fertile soil, known as the Richmond and Windsor lowlands, because that's where it floods. Because when they come around through the valley at Sackville, these high mountain ranges, they couldn't believe it when they come through these mountain ranges. They come out around this area. As they come around the side of Wilberforce, they see all this lush, flat, floodland, turf, beautiful soil, which had been deposited by all these floods way back way before 1777. So, you know, people there know this is going to flood, so don't read too much into it. It's all melodrama. Give it about another 2 weeks, and they'll forget all about it. Anyway, from Mr. Hominoid, I'm not worried about it. Hey, the new bridge at Windsor's really good. Even it went under. You think they were eastward to raise another 2 metres higher when they built it. They really don't do their homework. Remember that when you went to school, the teacher used to say, don't forget to do your homework? Says later from Mr. Hominoid. Yes, I'm laid up. Anyway, I'm just sitting back watching the rain.